My gig guarding the Old Mariner's Mile Carnival started out as a joke. A buddy of mine found the ad tucked between gigs for psychic hotline operators and people brave enough to test experimental deodorants. Security guard needed for immediate start. Night shift at secluded location. High tolerance for solitude and strange occurrences a must. It paid strangely well, so I figured, why not? The first night, Keith, a grizzled man who looked like he had weathered more than just storms, handed me 5 laminated cards, each with a rule written in bold, like we were playing some game. "Stick to these and you'll avoid trouble," he said, without a hint of irony. 1. Never turn off the midway lights, even if it's daylight. 2. Ignore the music. It plays for itself. 3. Stay out of the Hall of Mirrors after midnight. 4. If you see something in the corner of your eye, do not turn to look. 5. Report to the main office if you notice any games operating on their own. My first task every evening was to circle the perimeter, a routine that felt more like a nightly walk of contemplation than an actual security check. The ocean air mingled with the rust and the sugary decay of spilled cotton candy from years past. The carnival was a skeleton now, the laughter and screams of thrill-seekers long since gone. The first off moment came as I was passing the Ferris wheel. Despite Rule 1, the midway lights flickered as I approached, casting long, distorted shadows across the ground like dark fingers reaching out. I quickened my pace, trying to ignore the uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. The music, according to Rule 2, was meant to be ignored. It was a warped carousel tune, weaving through the night, slow and off-key enough to make my teeth grit. Saul, my predecessor who was showing me the ropes, grinned at my visibly growing irritation. Gets under your skin, doesn't it? You get used to it, or you start singing along. Approaching midnight, I found myself inconveniently near the Hall of Mirrors. I glanced at my watch, noting the time was 11:57 p.m. Curiosity is a cruel thing. It nudged me forward, rationalizing a quick peek before the forbidden hour. I stepped inside, my flashlight beam bouncing off mirrors, fracturing my reflection into dozens of worried glances staring back at me. As I turned to leave, noticing the seconds ticking closer to midnight, I caught a glimpse of something out of place, a mirror that didn't reflect anything. It was just black, absorbing light and my gaze. I jerked my head away, remembering Rule 4. Heart hammering, I exited just as my watch beeped 12:00. The real punch to the gut came when I was making my rounds near the old game booths. A tinny sound of mechanical laughter echoed from the whack-a-mole game. Approaching slowly, I saw the mallet rise and fall by itself, the sound slapping against the cool night air in steady, disturbing whacks. I took out the walkie-talkie to report in, my fingers fumbling with it. "Yeah, Keith, it's the whack-a-mole. It's playing itself." There was a pause, static crackling softly. Then Keith's voice, surprisingly calm, came through. "Did anything come up when you hit it?" "Haven't touched it yet," I replied. "All right, just don't. I'll note it down. Might want to stay away from that area tonight." The final seconds ticking off my shift never felt longer. As morning approached, thin mist hung over the worn paths of the carnival, settling like a shroud. It tugged at the edges of my mind. Something felt very, very wrong, like the morning was too calculated, too controlled, as if it had noticed my disturbance and was soothing the playground before anything real could show itself. As I clocked out, there was an almost palpable release of tension, like walking out of a chilled room into the sun. But the thought of returning, of what lay beneath the seemingly innocent rules and the clownish facade of a long-abandoned carnival, clawed quietly at the back of my mind. What was it that needed such specific cautions? What had I almost seen in that mirror? In my car, I hesitated before starting the engine, the cloying sea breeze whirling strands of morning fog around the Ferris wheel, a silent sentinel in the growing light. Tonight, I would have to come back. And something about that felt like willingly stepping into a slowly tightening noose. I turned the key, the engine spluttering to life, its grumble a reluctant promise to return. As I drove away, the rearview mirror held on to the last image of the deserted amusement park, the Ferris wheel's silhouette imprinted on the fog like a watermark in flesh. Driving back to town, the normalcy of passersby going about their day ate at me. They were unaware of the imperceptible thread that seemed to pull tighter around my neck with every passing hour leading up to tonight. At home, I tried to lose myself in chores, the banality of cleaning and sorting, but my thoughts shuffled back, endless. Evening's arrival was both swift and slow, the sun quivering at the horizon longer than it felt should be allowed. When it finally dipped below, I stood by my window, tracing the silhouette of trees swaying in the wind, their branches contorting like desperate fingers reaching for something just beyond their grasp. I couldn't eat. The thought of food twisted my stomach into knots. I showered, the water scalding, a feeble attempt to wash away the dread that clung to me like a second skin. But it was there in the shower that I first noticed the bruise. It was subtle, a slight yellowing on my forearm, tender to the touch, the edges diffused like watercolors. I couldn't remember bumping into anything. Could it have been from before? Subject to stress I'd imposed on myself and forgotten. Returning to the amusement park as twilight bled into night felt like moving through molasses. Each step was heavier, laden with a growing sense of doom. The parking lot was empty, the lone street lamp flickering as if struggling against the dark. Gathering courage, I killed the engine and stepped out. The gate squealed in protest as I pushed it, welcoming me with the same eerie silence as the morning. The fog was thicker now, swirling around my ankles, cold and damp. It made the half-lit path I walked feel like a passage to somewhere timeless. Wrong. I was drawn inexplicably toward the Ferris wheel. Each step forward was a fight against the instincts screaming within me to run. The lights of the Ferris wheel flickered to life as I approached, an electric hum filling the air, coalescing with the damp scent of the sea and rust. Beneath the towering structure, I felt insignificant, a minor character in a story too vast to comprehend. The cabins creaked as they swung gently, a sound that seemed to echo hollow in the still night air. Closer now, I could make out the shapes of figures seated inside, shadows really, impossibly still. Heartbeat thundering in my ears, I approached one of the cabins. The door was ajar, inviting. Against every instinct, I reached out, fingers trembling as they met the cold metal. It swung open with a mournful groan. Inside, the seat was worn, the leather cracked and peeling, yet there was something undeniably warm about the space, as if recently vacated. The air smelled faintly of copper, a sharp, unwelcome scent. Panic clawed at my throat, and as I turned to leave, the ride jolted into slow, inexorable motion. The ground receded as I ascended into the fog, enveloped by the pale, suffocating mist. The world below faded into a ghostly blur, the other cabins mere shadows dancing in and out of view. My chest tightened, the air felt thinner, laced with the taste of impending dread. As the cabin reached the summit, everything paused, a momentary suspension of life and breath. Below, the park was a maze of shadows and whispers. But it was then, in the silence between the sighs of the sea and the wheel, that I heard it. A soft whisper, not of wind or wave, but of someone or something, sitting across from me in the shadows of the cabin. The whisper was so faint I might have dismissed it as fear-fueled imagination. But as my eyes adjusted, the darkness seemed to rearrange, coalescing into a form, solid yet opaque, like smoke condensed into the shape of a man. The contours of his face were soft and indistinct, Yet his eyes, a piercing clarity in the fog, met mine, and something like a cold finger traced the nape of my neck. He spoke, voice barely above the creak of the cabin swinging in the wind. "You shouldn't have come back." My breath caught, a sharp intake of cold fear. The world below seemed impossibly distant, a forgotten dream as the Ferris wheel held us suspended above the abandoned laughter of the amusement park. The rusty gears of the Ferris wheel groaned, a sound too alive, as if the structure itself lamented its years of neglect. Each creak sent a shiver down my spine, echoing the decrepit state of the amusement park below. The capsule swayed lightly, rocked by a brisk wind that whispered through broken shutters and swung rusted signs on their hinges. Shadows flitted across the ground, playing tricks on my eyes, making me see movements that weren't there, or so I hoped. My fingers clenched the cold metal seat, the chill biting into my skin. Although I'd come here to face my fears, the old anxieties clawed at my insides, whispering doubts about the integrity of the carriage that held us aloft. Lisa, sitting opposite me, her face pale, seemed lost in her own dread. Her eyes, wide and reflecting the dim moonlight, searched the dark expanses, as if expecting some ghastly apparition to manifest. Just a bit longer, I told myself, trying to ignore how the Ferris wheel had inexplicably started when we'd stepped on, as though awaiting our arrival to begin its spectral rotation. On the next rotation, the wheel jolted, an abrupt halt that made my stomach lurch. From beneath us, the soft, unmistakable sound of children laughing drifted up. The sound was out of place, eerie, as it rose amidst the sighs and groans of the corroding metal. "It's just the wind," I muttered, more to convince myself than to reassure Lisa, who now hugged her knees tightly to her chest. "No wind laughs, Jay," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. I peered into the darkness below, the beam of my flashlight trembling in my unsteady hand. It swept across the abandoned stalls and derelict games, the light briefly catching on someone, before it moved out of view. Could children really be playing here, in the dead of night, amidst decay? My heart pounded against my ribs, each beat a loud drum in the silence that followed the laughter. Probably just some local kids daring each other, I tried to reason, my voice failing to mask my fear. Lisa didn't respond, her gaze fixed on something behind me. Slowly, agonizingly, I turned, following her wide-eyed stare. There, on the seat next to me, lay a small, ragged teddy bear. Its one remaining eye seemed to pierce into me, and its fur was matted, dark stains discoloring the threadbare fabric. I didn't remember seeing it when we got on, and every instinct screamed that it hadn't been there a moment ago. How did this get here? My voice was a strained croak, drowned out by another round of distant, disembodied giggling that now seemed to envelop us, seeping in from all around. The Ferris wheel jerked into motion again, descending towards the earth as if delivering us into the arms of an unseen nightmare. We descended in silence, the ground slowly approaching. The whole park seemed to watch us, its silence a thick, tangible presence. As we neared the bottom, the laughing grew louder, rising to a hysterical pitch before collapsing into sudden silence as our carriage hit the ground lightly. "Let's get out of here," I said, my mouth dry, pulse racing. We scrambled from the seat, fleeing the ominous embrace of the wheel. Yet, as we ran, the park seemed unwilling to release us. The paths twisted unexpectedly, familiar landmarks looked distorted, and behind us, the Ferris wheel continued its relentless rotation, the silhouette of the teddy bear stark against the dim sky. Then ahead of us, a new chilling sound cut through the night, a metallic scraping, like a blade being sharpened. Stopping dead, Lisa and I exchanged a terrified look. "Did you hear that?" she gasped. "Yes," I replied, every nerve on edge. From the dark path ahead, the sound emerged again, closer this time, a slow, deliberate grind that seemed to be moving towards us. In that moment, every childish tale of haunted amusement parks, every whispered ghost story felt palpably real. We should have never come here, I realized, the thought finally crystallizing amid the terror. The amusement park, left to rot and whispered about in hushed tones, held stories that weren't meant to be unearthed. As Lisa grabbed my arm, pulling me back the way we came, the realization that we could be part of those stories turned my blood to ice. And above the pounding of our footsteps and the racing of our hearts, the laughter returned, echoing around us, as if to say it was far from over. The laughter seems to wind its way through the bare trees, threading between the gnarled branches as if spun by some malevolent force. Every step we take seems to invite another peal of that hideous sound, closer now. It rolls over the crunch of dry leaves beneath our feet, seeping into our very bones. Margaret grabs my arm, her fingers digging in painfully. "Eric, do you see it?" I strain my eyes against the dying light. Shadows twist between the trees, growing longer with the approaching night. However, I see nothing substantial. No beast, no ghost, no ghastly apparition that resembles the source of our fear. Only the endless, oppressive woods and the creeping mist that begins to slither along the ground. But the laughter, piercing and cruel, suggests presence. "We should keep moving," I whisper, though every part of me screams to turn back, to get away from whatever is toying with us. But Margaret, usually the level-headed of us two, sets her jaw firmly and nods towards a dim pathway that hadn't caught my eye till now. The path is narrow, choked with overgrown brush and the limbs of twisty trees that claw at our clothes as we push our way forward. I can't help but feel these woods are alive, watching and holding back chuckles as we stumble blindly in their dark embrace. Margaret's grip on my arm tightens, her nails almost breaking the skin. She's always had a better sense of danger than me, but right now, I can feel her fear mingling with mine, a hot, tangible thing that buzzes in our ears, louder even than our quickened breaths. Every cracked twig, every rustle of leaves behind us sends shivers down my spine. But when I glance back, there's only the empty path. A path that seems to be shrinking, the trees bending inward, narrowing. Our way forward, I try to reassure myself that it's just the night playing tricks on my eyes. "Do you hear that?" Margaret stops abruptly, her head cocked slightly to the side. For a moment, I hear nothing but our breaths. Then, from somewhere deep within the woods, the soft, mournful cry of a child cuts through the silence, halting our steps. But no child would be out here, not in these woods, not at night. "It's trying to lure us," Margaret whispers, her voice quivering. "Eric, it's not real." I nod, but part of me shivers with doubt. The sound is so pained, so convincing. As we stand there, frozen, the child's sobbing grows louder, more desperate. It's the sound of sheer terror, the sound someone might make when they know there's no hope left. It's almost magnetic, pulling at something primal in me. For a moment, I feel the urge to rush into the darkness, to find and comfort the source of such despair. Margaret senses my hesitation, her hand clamping down on my forearm. "No, Eric, we can't." Her voice is a lifeline thrown into the tumultuous sea of my spiraling thoughts. The laughter crescendos then, wild and mocking, sweeping through the trees like a cruel wind. It's there, and it's real, and with a surge of terror, I realize it's moving parallel to us. We pick up our pace, nearly running now. Branches whip against our faces, leaving small stings of punishment. My heart thunders in my chest, each beat a loud drum that I'm sure whatever hunts us can hear. Panic mounts with each step, knowing beyond doubt that this thing, whatever it is, delights in our fear. And then, as sudden as a nightmarish drop into darkness, the path ends. We skid to a halt before a steep ravine, its depths swallowed up by the thickening fog. No way down, no way around. Behind us, the laughter grows louder, an auditory smirk. I can almost feel its breath against the back of my neck. Margit's eyes meet mine, large and rimmed with tears. "I'm sorry, Eric," she says, her voice barely above a whisper, drowned out by that eerie, echoing laughter. We edge backwards, the ground beneath our heels loose and treacherous. And as we inch away from the unseen precipice, a figure slowly emerges from the mist. The sight of it, shrouded partly in darkness, partly in fog, sends a new, harsh wave of terror crashing over me. The shape is indistinct, yet unmistakably twisted, its features mocking the outlines of humanity without mercy. "We'll jump," Margit breathes, resolved. She grabs my hand and pulls me closer. Together. I nod, my gaze fixed on the advancing shape, the laughter now deafening, booming around us as if thrown from every corner of the woods. And together, clutching one another's hands with the ferocity born of the driven brink, we leap.